Hi guys, hope you're doing good. This is an artist spotlight on the students of Satriani. Now, this idea I've had for quite a while, and I only found one video on this kind of subject. And the video I found is from a channel called Late Night Lessons. However, the video that he did didn't really focus on the actual students. It only did a little bit, but his video was mainly on like the actual techniques and exercises that Satriani would have taught his students back in the day. And he went through all the techniques and everything. It was really good, but for me, with my video, I wanted to go more about the actual guitarists themselves instead of the actual lessons. So yeah, I basically wanted to do this because Joe Satriani is widely known for his guitar playing and teaching, but it's not common knowledge who he actually taught. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about the careers of the most well-known guitarists that he's taught throughout the 80s. And yeah, hope you go on to enjoy this video, and thanks for all the new subs that I've gained recently, and it's sort of been up and down a bit. Hopefully we can get to 370 and we'll see what happens after that. So yeah, let's get straight into this video. So before we get into the students of Satriani, I thought it'd be cool to do a nice little overview on Joe Satriani, the master himself. So he began his music career as a teenager, first playing piano before learning guitar, and he was self-taught. His first band, Squares, here, a power pop trio. They tried all they could to be famous and popular back in the early 80s. However, it just never quite came to be. After that is when Joe started teaching at Berkeley in California, not Berkeley Music College that I first thought before doing my research. And he gained some income from doing that, and from there he was able to release his first solo project. After that he released his debut album, Not of This Earth, and then managed to get a gig playing with Mick Jagger on tour. And then after that all set himself up to release this album, Surfing with the Alien, and this really brought him his success, and he became widely known as a guitar god. And from then he's gone on to release 18 albums, and I'm just going to show a few here. Flying the Blue Dream, The Extremis, Crystal Planet, Shockwave Supernova, and his latest one, Elephant to Mars. And from there he also taught many famous guitarists in the rock and metal world. So the first one that I'm going to talk about is the one that everyone will know, Kirk Hammett. Now, Kirk Hammett started taking lessons from Joe when he formed Exodus in the late 70s to the early 80s. And from there, Kirk Hammett appeared on the first couple of demos before joining Metallica in 1983, following Dave Mustaine's firing. And he recorded their debut album, Kill 'Em All. And then from there, featured on all the Metallica releases, Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets, all the classics from the 80s, Justice for All. I'm not going to show everything, but just the main ones. Black Album there, Load and Reload, Death Magnetic, Hardwired, all the way up to the current album, 72 Seasons. And he also featured on the Exodus song Salt the Wound on 2014's Blood In, Blood Out. And also he released his first solo projects in 2022, an EP named Portals. Next one on the list, I'm going to be talking about Rick Hunnell, who replaced Kirk in Exodus from 1983, and he featured on all the Exodus releases from Bonded by Blood, Pleasure of the Flesh, Fabulous Disaster, Impact is Imminent, up until Tempo of the Damned in 2004, which after that he left the band in 2005 to focus on his family. However, since then he's been quite quiet in the music scene. However, in 2020 and 21 he featured guest solos on Heathens, Empire of the Blind, and the song A Fine Red Mist, and on Exodus's Persona Non Grata on the song Lunatic Liar Lord. Next up is a slightly lesser known name to be associated with Joe Satriani, but yeah. So the next name is Larry Lalonde, and Larry Lalonde first got lessons from Joe in 1983 as a teenager, and from there he joined Possessed in 1984. He played on the first 2 albums by Possessed, and also the Eyes of Horror EP, which Joe Satriani actually helped produce that EP. He after that left the band to join thrash band Blind Delusion, and he played on their debut album The Sane Asylum in 1988. After this, he was asked to join Primus by then Blind Delusion bass player Les Claypool, and he has featured on all Primus releases from 1989 to present day, and he's also played in bands Corrupted Morals and No Force Field, as well as playing with Tom Waits and Serge Tankian. The next one on my list, I'm not actually 100% sure if this is true or not, because I saw it on Wikipedia, but I haven't actually seen it anywhere else, so I have no idea whether this is true or not. But it was on Wikipedia, so I thought I would add him, and that name is Andy Timmons. And Andy Timmons is most known for being in glam metal band Danger Danger. He played on their first 2 albums and also 2001's Cockroach. He left Danger Danger in the 90s and released several projects, including one with Prawn Kings. He has since released 7 solo albums and 3 albums as Andy Timmons Band. He's also worked with Maylee Thomas, Simon Phillips, Kip Winger and Ted Pierce. Also in 2014 he has played with Joe at the G4 Experience. The next guitarist is probably the one most known associated with Joe Satriani, and that is Steve Vai. Now Steve Vai has been working with Satch since the age of 14, when he started taking lessons from him in the mid-1970s. Steve got his big break while being a transcriptionist for Frank Zappa at first. Then he became a full-time member in 1980, and he featured on many of his albums during the 80s and early 90s. In 1984, he released his debut album titled Flexible, which I have here. And he has since released 10 solo albums, which I have a couple here. I have this double album here of Passion and Warfare and Modern Primitive, which is pretty cool, nice little set. And his most recent album being Inviolate from 2022. He has worked with multiple bands during the 80s and featured on albums by Alcatraz, Dave Lee Roth, Public Image Limited and Whitesnake, all of these as an official band member. He's also featured on multiple albums and worked with countless artists since the 1990s to present day, some of which include Alice Cooper, Ozzy Osbourne, Joe Jackson, Billy Sheehan, Motorhead, John Five, Devin Townsend, Marty Friedman, Jason Becker, Polyfer, and most recently Joe Satriani himself, with the Satch D.I.E project being launched in March 2024. And the last guitarist I'm going to be talking about today in detail is Alex Skolnick. Now, I don't think most people know this, especially in the metal world. I don't think many people know that Alex Skolnick was taught by Joe Satriani. Alex started learning guitar at a very young age, I believe 9. He started learning from Joe at Berkeley aged 14, and he was under his tutelage for 2 years. He joined Testament, at the time was known as The Legacy, in 1984, and featured on all the early releases from The Legacy, New Order, Practice What You Preach, Souls Are Black, to The Ritual in 1992, which after that he left the band, and after this he played on Savage's Handful of Rain in 1994, and also played live with Ozzy Osbourne, and also played with Michael Manning and Attention Deficit. After this he returned to Testament in 2001, playing on the re-recorded album First Strike Still Deadly, re-recordings of their early stuff, and then became a full-time member again in the mid-2000s and playing on every release since the formation of Damnation, which I don't have, but I do have the others: Dark Roots of Earth, Brotherhood of the Snake, and Titans of Creation. Hopefully we get a new album from Testament soon. He has also featured on many other albums and projects, including Stratospherius, Lamb of God on the Ash of the Wake album, Rodrigo y Gabriela, Trans-Siberian Orchestra, and Azusa. And he's also formed other bands since the late 90s, early 2000s, which include the jazz rock inspired band Alex Skolnick Trio, and they've released 4 albums, and also metal supergroup Metal Allegiance, which have released 2 albums, the debut self-titled and Volume 2, Power Drunk Majesty. And this album actually features Joe Satriani, his old teacher, on the last track, Power Drunk Majesty Part 2. Does a nice guitar solo in that song. Before I finish up today, I just wanted to go through a couple of extra mentions to guitarists that are not as well known in the rock and metal world. Some more underground than others, but these are also people that Joe taught back in the day, and these are Charlie Hunter, who's a jazz guitarist, Kevin Codigan, a guitarist of Third Eye Blind, which is an alt rock band from the 90s, David Bryson from another alt rock band called Counting Crows, Phil Kettner from the thrash band Laz Rocket, Jeff Tyson from a band called T-Ride, and they only did 1 album. It's some crazy like experimental metal thing. And side note, Joe said that he was one of the 2 people to actually graduate from his lessons, the other being Steve Vai, of course. And lastly, David Turin, who is known for working with various people and releasing multiple solo albums. So that was my spotlight going through the students of Joe Satriani. I'd love to know if you knew these guitarists were taught by Joe Satriani, and which ones, if you did know. And how many of these guitarists did you actually know of? Would be another interesting thing to note. Links to all my sources from where I got all my information will be in the description, including the video from Late Night Lessons. Go check that out. I thought it was a really good video. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed my video, and if you got this far, thanks ever so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and until next time, keep shredding.